The acrid stench of my burned house clung to my hair as Bryn Ashworth Sterling strutted into my courtroom like she owned it. I sat there, Judge Miriam Blackwood, black robes crisp, gavel in hand, staring down the woman who'd torched my home. The sheer audacity made my jaw clench. She thought burning a federal judge's house would silence me. But Bryn had no idea she just handed me her entire criminal empire on a silver legal platter. Every illegal fine, fraudulent claim, and intimidation tactic. I had it documented. When your destroyer walks into your courtroom, what do? You serve justice, so brutal it echoes through federal prisons. Where are you reading from? Because this revenge gets savage. 6 months before my home became a crime scene, I was a respected federal judge, feared by criminals, but privately shattered. I just buried Harold, my husband of 28 years, after cancer devoured him. Our 1940s craftsman in Pinewood Estates felt like a tomb. Pinewood was once a haven for blue-collar families and retirees tending flower gardens. Then the money rolled in, modest homes raised in McMansions, property taxes spiking, old-timers like Walt Henderson squeezed out. Enter Bryn Ashworth Sterling, the HOA's queen bee, a 45-year-old suburban nightmare in designer athleisure, clutching $20 smoothies while dictating everyone's worth. She moved in 2 years ago with her contractor husband, vowing to elevate Pinewood by purging the undesirables. My first clash with Bryn came while I was installing Harold Memorial Fence, a 6-foot barrier we planned together in his final months, our sanctuary for quiet coffee and sunrises. The scent of his prized roses filled the air as her boots crunched autumn leaves. "You must be the widow," she sneered. No condolences, just a pink tape measure snapping like a whip. "Your fence is 6 feet 2 inches. Regulations say 6 feet max. That's a $500 fine and removal costs." I stood, vertebrae popping from grief-soaked nights. "Show me the regulation." Her manicured fingers fumbled through a leather portfolio, producing nothing. My licensed surveyor had ensured the fence was exactly 6 feet. "We'll see about that, Judge," she spat, venom dripping. That night, over Harold Bourbon, I dug into court records. Bingo! 3 years ago, I'd ruled against Sterling Premium Builders for scamming an 80-year-old veteran. This wasn't about fences. It was revenge. Bryn had miscalculated, targeting a judge who'd sentenced murderers and con artists for 20 years without flinching. A woman with nothing left to lose, and a mastery of the legal system's every loophole. Harold's fence post, rough under my palm, reminded me why I'd built this barrier. To protect our sacred memories. Bryn had declared war on a federal judge's sanctuary. In my courtroom, we called that Exhibit A in a federal case. Within weeks, Bryn unleashed psychological warfare, disguised as HOA enforcement. Certified letters arrived like clockwork, 7 in 10 days, each more absurd than the last. Violation 1, Harold's memorial stone, in memory of love that grows eternal, deemed a decorative eyesore. Violation 2, my mailbox, unchanged since the 80s, suddenly visually discordant. Violation 3, my bird feeder, attracting Harold's beloved cardinals, labeled a nuisance. Fines range from $200 to $500, threatening liens. The paper stock cost more than the violations. But 20 years on the bench taught me Colorado's HOA statutes inside out. Bryn's notices cited fake regulations and skipped mandatory hearings. Legal holes big enough to drive conviction through. I spent 3 evenings in Harold's basement office, surrounded by his law book's musty scent, building my counterattack. I filed a complaint with the Colorado Real Estate Commission, photographed my property, and created spreadsheets exposing Bryn's illegal fine patterns. My evidence preservation skills became a weapon. Then my security cameras caught her criminal stupidity. Bryn, her skeletal interior designer, and her protein shake chugging trainer manufacturing violations in my backyard, pointing at Harold's roses like they'd insulted her personally. This wasn't harassment. It was conspiracy to commit fraud. Walt Henderson's pipe tobacco scented the evening air as he whispered, "Judge, Bryn's targeting everyone." The Rodriguez family was fined $800 for their Virgin of Guadalupe statue until they sold. A single mom got hit for her kid's chalk art, rainbows and hopscotch. The pattern crystallized. Bryn was running a harassment campaign against minorities, elderly residents, and anyone who didn't fit her suburban fantasy. This was an offense dispute. It was a criminal enterprise. In Harold's office, my pen scratched out a legal strategy to dismantle her operation. She'd picked a fight. Bryn escalated to felony territory with breaking and entering. While I sentenced a domestic abuser downtown, my cameras caught her in designer yoga pants. Pink tape measure in hand, trespassing in my backyard. She pressed her face against my kitchen window, peering at Harold's unwashed coffee mug, then deliberately left my gate open. When I got home, Gavel, my 14-year-old tabby, Harold's final gift, rescued from a courthouse storm, was gone. 3 days of searching, my voice hoarse from calling his name, ended with a vet's call. Gavel was in an oxygen tent, ribs broken, dehydrated, traumatized. Injuries consistent with being chased by machinery, the vet said. Security footage revealed Bryn's landscaping crew, armed with industrial leaf blowers, terrorizing Gavel through the open gate she'd left. This wasn't harassment. It was attempted murder of my family. I changed locks, posted no trespassing signs, and filed charges for unlawful entry and animal cruelty. Then I called Channel 7 Sarah Morgan, a journalist who ate suburban corruption for breakfast. Her expose, Judge versus HOA, Watchdogs attack, aired 3 nights later, showing Bryn's trespassing and Gavel's torture. The community erupted. Donations poured in for vet bills and legal fees. Hashtag Justice for Gavel trended, and 5 families shared similar horror stories. Mrs. Morgan's Memorial Garden find, the Johnsons bankrupted over a wheelchair ramp. Bryn's systematic targeting of minorities, and elderly residents screamed civil rights violations. Then I found legal gold in Colorado's property laws. Unlawful entry with intent to intimidate carried burglary penalties, and animal cruelty stacked with conspiracy charges. Bryn's landscaping crew had handed me a federal RICO predicate. Her desperation peaked with a Judicial Discipline Commission complaint, alleging I'd abused my authority. Doctored photos, fake witness statements, and leaked blogs painted me as a liberal judge terrorizing patriotic HOAs. For 72 hours, my 20-year career was shredded online. Then Patricia Pat Donnelly, a silver-haired retired FBI agent, arrived with cookies and a bombshell. Bryn Ashworth Sterling doesn't exist. Photos showed her as Rebecca Ashworth in California, Beth Sterling in Phoenix, and Sandra McKenzie, a federal fugitive from Detroit who'd fled witness protection. She'd stolen $4 million across 4 states, targeting communities with harassment, embezzlement, and arson. My house was next. Architectural plans marked it for accidental fire, valued at $320,000 for insurance payouts. Bryn wasn't after revenge. She was running a decade-long crime spree, and I was her distraction. My kitchen became a war room. Pat, Walt, and attorney Rebecca Morgan, a former federal prosecutor, planned Bryn's annihilation. Rebecca's strategy was surgical. Federal charges for mail fraud, 20 years. Wire fraud, 20 years. Identity theft, 10 years. And RICO conspiracy life. Pat coordinated FBI, Treasury, and Colorado investigators. Walt's neighborhood network documented Bryn's crimes, while my HOA statute knowledge demanded 5 years of financial records, exposing $340,000 in embezzled funds. We froze Bryn's accounts, filed civil rights violations, and upgraded my security to catch her in real-time felonies. Every fine, every letter, every transfer became federal evidence. Bryn's final act was domestic terrorism. While I sentenced a wife-beater, her arson crew set up my house with accelerants and propane connections, designed to burn my home and spread to hers for a $2.8 million payout. She arrived with Channel 7, claiming community safety concerns. But Fire Marshal Jake Morrison spotted the setup instantly. "This is premeditated murder," he said, finding fingerprints tied to Sterling Premium. Bryn's bribery attempt, sliding an envelope to Morrison, was recorded, adding federal corruption charges. Pat's network caught her crew at 3 other properties, targeting minorities and elderly residents. Federal warrants hit within hours, seizing assets and liquidating Sterling Premium. At 3:17 a.m., my house exploded into flames, shaking Walt's guest room where I'd been staying. Our sanctuary, Harold's roses, our kitchen, his unwashed mug, burned to ash. But Bryn's overconfidence created a prosecutorial trap. My fireproof security system caught her crew and her husband setting the blaze. Insurance investigator Jennifer Park found Bryn's pre-filed claims, submitted 47 minutes before the fire started. Proof of premeditated murder. Bryn even showed up at the scene in full makeup, blaming me on camera for ignoring safety standards. FBI agents recorded every word for her murder trial. 7 days later, Bryn entered my courtroom in an orange jumpsuit, facing charges that guaranteed life without parole, attempted murder, arson, fraud, money laundering, RICO, and civil rights violations. The gallery overflowed with her victims. Mrs. Rodriguez, the Johnsons, elderly residents, watching Judge Patricia Morrison read her aliases and crimes. Bryn's public defender pleaded for bond, citing community ties. Prosecutor Amanda Stevens countered. She's a fugitive who's destroyed 15 communities under 6 identities. Bryn's final mistake was addressing the court. Judge Blackwood's vendetta weaponizes the system against homeowners. Morrison's reply was ice cold. You attempted to murder a federal judge, embezzled millions, and targeted minorities. You're a domestic terrorist. Bond denied. The gallery roared as marshals led her away. 2 years later, I stood in my rebuilt kitchen, watching cardinals at Harold's feeder. Bryn got life without parole. Her husband, 25 years. Their $3.2 million in assets compensated victims across 4 states. Pinewood's new HOA, led by Walt, set national standards for transparency. The Pinewood Protection Act, inspired by our fight, shielded millions from HOA predators. The Judge Harold Blackwood Scholarship funded students like Maria Rodriguez, now at Harvard Law. Gavel ruled our new sanctuary, and Harold's roses bloomed brighter than ever. If you're battling an HOA tyrant, document everything, rally your neighbors, and don't stay silent. Your nightmare could spark someone's salvation. Share your HOA horror in the comments. You're not alone. And stay tuned for next week's takedown of a corrupt tax assessor. That revenge was just as biblical.